Hey YouTube, I hope everyone's doing fantastic. I just wanted to post a follow-up video and kind of a more recent video about how to perform house blessings. So this is a method that I've used over the years. I worked on demonic and severe haunting cases for about 12 years of my life, and I was researching it for about 17 plus years ever since I was 11 years old. And I had some psychic and strange experiences since I was a toddler, and eventually learned to identify what was going on. But yes, severe hauntings, demonic hauntings, things like that nature are real. They're not very common, but they do happen. And so about 10% of the cases that I worked on, I would say were bona fide, legitimate, demonic, inhuman in nature. There are also very severe negative hauntings with human spirits as well. So this is a method that works for both. If you have a haunting going on that just seems like, grandma's spirit in the attic, you don't have to go to the steps of using holy water and a warfare prayer, but it is important to do all these steps for a severe or demonic haunting. So at the bottom of this description and on the webpage, this is most likely listed on our website, you will find at the very bottom the warfare prayer. And it is a non-denominational prayer, but it is essential for family members to use when you're working as a team. So first and foremost, if it's you and your family, or if you are like a spiritual practitioner or a healer or a minister, is to really identify why this haunting is going on, because it'll help you later on when you're doing the warfare prayer or denouncing certain attachments and things from the past, right? So 90% of the time in the cases I've worked on, I would see dysfunction of some sort. So whether it was alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic violence, sexual violence, traumas from the past like rape or depression, anxiety, pornography addictions, meddling with the occult in an unprotected way, or legitimately just trying to summon things and doing satanic rituals, but no longer wanting that attachment. Those are all really important to identify, because there's always a reason for why these entities or the entity is attached to an individual or family. They have to have like a legal foothold or a doorway to enter into someone's life. And sometimes these cases will start out mild and then progress into really severe cases, or they start off with a bang and it is immediate and noticeable, but oftentimes it'll build over the years. The longer it goes on for, the more difficult it is, the more severe the case is, the more deeper that attachment is. So it's best to get rid of it immediately, as soon as possible. So this is the method that I've used. We had about like a 97-98% success rate. The only time it hasn't worked are when clients don't want to give up those footholds like alcoholism. They need to go to counseling. They need to change. And so if you want this to be a long-term permanent solution, you have to make those efforts and really remove those attachments in your life, or denounce anything you've done in the past, like summoning and asking for, the occult to come into your life. And I'm not one to demonize everything, like, oh, you're the psychic reading, you opened a portal. It's rather like the people that actually go through rituals to summon something and it answered. And so when people use spiritual tools, I don't think they're all like portals and gateways to bad things, but you have to think about it as like you're a telemarketer and you're calling all these numbers, reaching out there, and eventually something bad is going to answer that phone call. So you have to be careful. So I tell people not to meddle with things, just to be on the side of caution here. So the first step you're going to use is a white sage smudge stick, and you can find those online or at spiritual bookstores. Please try to find one that is sustainably harvested and be respectful of the sources and where they are supplied from. So you're going to get a white sage smudge stick. They come in sizes like this or down to little bundles. It just depends on what you want to use. Usually for a house, I'll probably use the entire thing, as thick smoke is the best. So before you start burning the white sage, you're going to want to open the doors and windows in the home, and that is to let out the smoke and also the spirits or demons. It's kind of like a 2-for-1 type thing. But you're going to want to, create some air in that house and open up the doors and windows, and you begin smudging. So I like to use an abalone shell. Sometimes I'll put a charcoal disc in it and light that, and then put it in the shell, and then put the leaves over and break up the leaves and start wafting with a ceremonial feather. You can use your hand, things like that. But in traditional Native American spirituality, you would use an abalone shell and a smudging wand, a ceremonial feather, things like that with great reverence. The second step is you're going through and smudging and wafting, you're going to be saying prayers and mantras. I really believe it's about intentions. I don't think it has to be a word for word type thing, but usually what I'll say is like, in the name of God, I command anything dark, negative, or evil to leave this house. You are no longer allowed here. You are no longer welcome here. In God's name, I command you to leave. Amen. I also start to ask for positive things. Like, God, we ask that you bring in light, love, good health, and prosperity, and happiness, and harmony, and that we can grow closer to you, things like that. So that's what I have the clients pray for, or I'm working with them. And during the entire time, my clients are working with me, and I'm just leading them, but they're doing the actual act themselves, because it's really their battle. It's their time to reclaim their life and their home and their happiness and things. Because people who typically deal with demonic hauntings, every facet of their life is being affected. So after we've done the white sage smudging, you might feel the entity leave, or any of the spirits, but keep going with all the steps. The next step that I'll do is I'll take salt. Personally, from my experience, it doesn't matter what kind of salt it is. Salt is salt. It's used in numerous cultures and religions. It's a pure substance, and it acts as like a barrier in the spiritual world. And so I will take a pinch of salt and sprinkle it in every corner of every room, and at the major entryways and doorways, I will put like a line of salt to block things out. After that, and I'm repeating prayers the entire time, we will take olive oil. Some people will use like holy anointing oils, but I use olive oil, and I'll anoint above every single door and window in the sign of the cross. Some people have used dots. Again, about intentions, what you're comfortable with, as long as you believe in a higher power, our divine creator, and you're calling upon that. I think that's what really, really matters. After that, typically what I'll do is either burn like sweetgrass to replenish the removal of negative energy. You want to replenish the energy, and so I'll burn sweetgrass. Other times, if it's a demonic haunting, I will follow up with sprinkling holy water in every single room in the sign of the cross. And then we end with the warfare prayer, where I kind of have the entire family gather around, and we kind of do like a repeat after me, where I have the head of the household or whoever wants to lead the prayer, and then they'll read it, and then we will recite what they're saying and work together as a team. It's important everyone is present. Everyone is 100% on board with removing this haunting, that they're not going to try to call it back in by doing investigations after it's left, things like that. I always explain to my clients that you're basically part of a witness protection program type of mindset, where once you've done this blessing, do not give it any psychic energy or food for thought type thing where you're obsessing with it or checking to see if it's still there. You really need to leave it in the past and do not welcome it back in. So that's very important, and obviously to leave behind the bad habits that kind of led to this. But 90% of the time, there's some sort of dysfunction going on. That's what drew it in. Other 10% of the time, sometimes people just move into a house where there's already a negative entity there or spirits there because of a previous owner's choices in their life, or their attachments, or maybe rituals and things were done there on that property. It just depends. But either way, this is a very effective way to remove any sort of unwanted spiritual activity from a home. And when I do my blessings, like, I honestly, if it's a severe demonic case, I don't entertain it with investigating and trying to understand 100% what it is, even though it's fascinating stuff. It's not something that we should really be digging into, because again, you're giving it energy and a foothold and more power. And so typically with severe hauntings and demonic cases, I will counsel with the family, figure out what's going on, the root cause of it, and just perform the house blessing. Sometimes there's cases where we deal with like mental illness and things like that, and not saying they can't coincide, because sometimes they really do, say someone's bipolar, but then there's also a demonic entity that's preying and feeding off of that individual. That happens too. But almost always we'll have valid cases where there are things going on that we can't explain by our current scientific methods. And so rather be safe than sorry and just get rid of it. So the longer these things go on, the worse it gets. And I don't know if everyone understands like how severe it can get. But basically a prisoner in your own life and household, and just horrific things happen in these cases. And so if you have any suspicion there's something going on in your house, I definitely recommend taking the steps to removing it. And it's about intentions. So this has worked for numerous clients that were agnostic or Abrahamic and Jewish or Christian. I've even worked with clients that were Wiccan and pagan. As long as they are comfortable with calling upon like the divine creator, a positive creator, even if someone's not sure about it, if you can get them to consider that maybe there's positive, negative energy in the world and to really call on that positive energy, those I think are really important. It's about that intention. So hopefully this works for you guys. We've had great success with it. I haven't been doing blessings in the last couple of years just because I have a boy now. He's 3 already. I'm busy with work life, but I always renew the domain on this website and try to keep up to date, at least on the YouTube, in terms of posting this information out there for people, because a lot of people often are asking for help, and sometimes they unfortunately get turned down by their church, or the church isn't really sure what to do to get rid of it. And so hopefully this is a nice resource for people looking for help. I have had cases where people in the comment sections are like, oh, prayers are the only thing you need. And we've had plenty of cases where, a priest came running out of the house and refused to go back in, or their blessing didn't work. And so I kind of looked at reasons why. And I think a big part of it is actually like that, like come to Jesus moment, where we are identifying what it is that drew it in and denouncing that and removing that. And then actually having the whole family participate and being empowered, children even. Everyone's participating and feeling empowered and reclaiming their life and, asking God to come into their life and homes. And I think that's really the most important part and why it makes it so effective. So, because oftentimes there isn't enough counseling beforehand, or people continue their dysfunctional habits. And then they're like, why isn't it gone? So I hope this helps you, and I wish you guys the best. So take care, be safe, and hopefully you enjoy your day. All right, bye-bye.